Blog Talk Radio.
Hello out there, everybody. It is Friday, June 8th, 2012. I am David Domzalski, founder of The Financial Bin and host of FB Radio. Now, before I introduce you to our guest today, let me share a few quick notes. First off, don't forget to pick up your copy of Entrepreneur Intervention, Triumphs and Failures of Entrepreneurs. You can do so for just 99 cents on Kindle, Nook, iPad, and other e-readers. You can also get a paperback copy for just under $10 at Amazon and CreateSpace. Go to financialbin.com and click on the book section at the very top next to the login button for more information. Now, secondly, we're still finalizing everything for Landlord Intervention. This is a book by a gentleman who has been in the real estate rental business for over 20 years. He gives you a fantastic step-by-step how-to guide for you to begin your own career as a landlord. We plan to release this book later this month. Now, let me introduce you to our guest. His name is Joe Mihalic. Joe is here to tell us about his amazing story of graduating from Harvard with $90,000 in student loan debt. And he paid off the entire thing in less than 1 year. You can check out Joe because he blogs about his experience at NoMoreHarvardDebt.com, and he joins us right now. Joe, welcome to FB Radio.
Thanks, David. Glad to be here.
All right, Joe, the way we do this, we're just going to kind of jump in right into the questions. Let me know if you have any questions about the program as we go through. Now, Joe, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your background is?
Sure. Born in Boulder, Colorado, moved around the country a lot when I was growing up. Went to the University of Michigan. My family's still in Detroit. And went down to do a job at Dell for a couple of years and went up to Boston for grad school and then came directly back to Austin, the best city on earth.
well, I'm here in Philadelphia. That doesn't fall too far behind, does it?
No, it's a close second. Definitely close second.
All right, Joe, so $90,000. Okay, now did that include just everything in terms of tuition? I mean, did that include room and board, or whether you rented an apartment or your books? What did that include precisely? Yeah,
so the $90,000 is what I paid off in 7 months. I took out about $95K in loans, and then I graduated with $101,000 with some interest capitalized in there that had accumulated during the 2 years I was in school. I also got a $54,000 fellowship, which was need-based. I'd only been working for 2 years. Didn't have a whole lot in savings, so the university was gracious enough to give me that money from their donors. So you're looking at about $154,000.
Wow.
I paid for very little out of pocket while I was there. So it pretty much included everything: room, board, tuition, the essentials, nights out as well.
So now after you graduated, I mean, was it immediate? Did you go and you look at your statement and say, "Holy crap, I got to do something about this"? Or did it take you a little while to realize, just the monumental amount that, that you have to pay back, within, I don't know what, how long did you have to pay it back? Well, how long did they take it out for you?
Yeah, I had $65,000 that was due in 10 years, and the remainder of the $95,000 was due in 15 years.
So, what point did you say to yourself, I got to do something about this?
It wasn't until 2 years that I was out, really, when I looked at it. I mean, I spent the first 2 years just buying stuff. I wasn't really fazed by, and it was kind of weird. Like, I graduated, and my salary was practically doubled, and I felt like I had a lot of money, but after tax and after the student loan payments every month, I really wasn't making that much more than I was before I went off to grad school. But I didn't really think through that. I just looked at what I was making, and I just plunged ahead into consumerism, bought a house, bought furniture, bought a couple cars, bought a motorcycle, bought a road bike, was going out, a lot and spending about $1,300 a month on entertainment. And I was just living that life. And then basically I jumped online and looked at my student loan balances, and it started at $101,000  2 years ago. I paid over $22,000 on the loans during those 2 years. The balance, the principals worked down to about $91,000, even though I'd spent $22,000, because most of that went to interest. Right. And I was like, wow, I haven't made a whole lot of headway here in 2 years. What's going on? And obviously it's just, it's all due to the amortization table and the nature of interest. But that night, I was trying to fall asleep, and I realized I was trapped. I was living at my means, at the very edge of my means. I was paying off my credit card every month. I was paying off my student loans at the regular rate, and I was putting 10% of my salary into my 401k. So I was thinking ahead. But I also realized, like, for the next 10 years, when I still have these loans, like, if I wanted to do anything different, like start a family or start a business or buy a business, turn around, you know, take a year off of work and travel or do something like volunteer somewhere, I couldn't, just because everything was already allocated. Like, my entire budget was optimized to just live this certain lifestyle that I was living. And I was, you know, I was okay with that, but I felt like there was a gun to my head, and that there was really no good way out unless I made some drastic lifestyle changes.
So how did the blog come about? Did it start out as, you know, okay, I'm going to hold myself accountable and have other people hold me accountable, or did it just kind of start out as just like, what the heck, you know, maybe other people are going through this. Let me just throw this up online and just see what happens.
It was really just, you know, it was neither of those, actually. It was just my wanting to entertain my friends and family. Like, when I wrote, like, I kind of, like, had, like, an out-of-body experience where I was, like, writing on my computer this cover letter to this, like, $7 an hour job as, like, a delivery truck driver. And I'm like Harvard MBA typing this cover letter for, like, a minimum wage job. Like, come on, like, that's like
surreal, right?
Laugh at, right? Yeah, it's kind of surreal. So I was like, and I love when people laugh at my expense. Like, it's like, I don't take myself too seriously. So if you want to laugh at me, like, feel free, I'll facilitate it. And so I just, like, I went online, I Googled, like, free blogs, and WordPress was, like, a really popular option. So I created a domain, like, for $26, and, like, right after I was done writing the cover letter, that's when it, like, dawned on me that I should write the blog. And so, like, right after I was done writing the cover letter, I wrote the blog, and then the rest is sort of history. It turned into what you called it later on, is a way to keep me accountable and a way to inspire others, or at least let others know that somebody's going through the same thing as them. But yeah, it just started out as sort of a farce. It's kind of a joke.
So it took you 7 months, right? So can you take us through, you know, how you went about paying it off, and you know, explain to us, you know, just a little bit about the things you did that maybe were kind of, I don't know, out of the norm?
Yeah, so basically it was a pretty simple framework, increase revenue, decrease expenses. Mm-hmm. So the very first thing I did was I had $14,000 in stocks. It started out at $17,000 because I invested, like, in October 2007, right at the top of the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also had an IRA that I got from a 401k in my first job out of undergrad, and that was sitting at $12,000. So I took the $14,000 and the $12,000, cashed them both out, so I realized $3,000 in losses on the stock. I realized $4,000 losses on the IRA. That turned to $8,000 basically after the penalties and fees. And so I took that $22,000, added in about $3,000 in cash that I had, and got rid of a $25,000 loan. I also got rid of my safety net at that point because I had around $30,000 in, you know, in a cash cushion. It go to hell fund basically if I felt like not working anymore for a few months.
Right.
Something would happen at work, if there were an emergency. So basically wiped that out, wiped out my savings, finished that month at $3,500 in the bank, whereas I started that month with more like $30,000. So right off the bat, I was flying without a net. Stopped contributing to my 401k to free up cash flow for my loans.
All right, let me stop you right there, because I bet the normal everyday financial pundits probably hate you right now, doing everything that they advise against, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I was on the phone with my guy at UBS, and I was like, Mike, let's close this IRA out. And he's like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, you know, the market's coming back. You can make up the loss. Right. And my friends were like, why are you walking away from a 5% match at Dell? Like, that's free money. And it wasn't. And the thing is, what people don't understand, it's not about the money. It couldn't be
exactly
not about the money at all. And like, sure, net present value, I'm probably worse off now than I was before, but I don't give a damn. You know, like, I'm free.
Right.
So I've got, like, I'm building back up my savings. I lost 7 months of interest, of compounding interest. Fine, okay, big deal. You know, but like, I'm in a better state. I'm in a much better state now than I was 10 months ago.
Exactly.
So yeah, financial advisors probably hate me. But it's interesting you brought that up, actually, because I had this one financial advisor write me. She's like, Joe, it's beautiful that you don't have that you admit on your blog that you have no financial expertise, because we financial advisors are paid to sell certain vehicles, some certain funding investment vehicles. And the beauty of what you're doing here is that you don't have any sort of bias. Nobody's investing in you. Nobody's paying you to sell their investment funds.
Right.
So you can advise. You can sort of give the unorthodox advice. And and it's not always so far off the mark. So,
well,
I
want to
save that one.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to ask, doing all this too. I mean, people don't realize this, but what about all the interest you saved as a result of you doing this early?
Of course, I saved $30,000 of interest in 7 months.
Right.
That $30,000. So it would have been $42,000 in interest over 10 years. I saved $30,000 by just making some changes in 7 months. Right. So I walked away from 5% match. I walked away from like maybe a 5%, 7% growth on my IRA.
Right.
But my IRA was at $12,000, right? So I lost $4,000, and maybe I lost a few $1,000s when I walked away from the 5% match at work. But like I saved $30,000 in 7 months. So, $30,000 that I saved over 7 months, that's $30,000 in my pocket that I can now go invest moving forward instead.
Well, let's be honest too, Joe. I mean, $90,000. I mean, I actually last week I met a woman that tends bar around where I live, and she has $300,000 as a result of med school, and she's still trying to find a job in her field. And it's like, these are mortgages that people are taking out. So, I mean, for you to be able to do this early, you put yourself in a much better position, 401k, no 401k,
Right. And it's not like I cashed out my 401k. Like, I have $45,000 in my 401k. I got rid of a $12,000 IRA. It's not, these are not big numbers.
Right. So, now, Joe, I mean, okay. So you did this stuff with the student loans. You're trying to figure it out. You're a Harvard MBA. Through this whole process over the last few years, what did you learn? What was your takeaway?
Key takeaway. So I was living an interesting life, this time a year ago. I had a couple toys in my garage and pretty lavish nights out and, a decent travel budget. And I was finding enjoyment in that. And when I basically sort of challenged myself to put it all on the line and do a 180 with my lifestyle, I was intimidated, and I was scared. And that's why I made it a 10-month challenge instead of a 1-year challenge, just because optically, audibly, 10 months seems more tolerable. It's an easier pill to swallow than 12 months. So I went in just expecting to have a really crappy life for 10 months, but just having to take my medicine and deal with it. But then, 2 months in, something changed, and I think it's called hedonistic adaptation. You just adapt, right? Like, people who win the lottery, they eventually return to their base level of happiness. People who lose limbs eventually return to their base level of happiness. So some guy who loses, a second car and a motorcycle and has to live with roommates, I'm going to return to that base level of happiness, and that's basically exactly what happened. So now, I'm on the other side, and I'm realizing, my friends are still buying things, right? And they're going on crazy trips, and they're like I've got a buddy who wants to buy a Porsche, and that Porsche is going to make him really happy for a week, but it's going to get dirty, it's going to get a rock chip in it, whatever. At some point, it's going to disappoint him, and he's going to return to his base level of happiness. And if he's looking for a Porsche for happiness, his base level is probably not very good. So there's probably something more fundamental that he needs to change about himself in order to move on with his life and be in a better spot. But basically, I've gone through those changes, and I've come to recognize that I don't need a bunch of stuff just to lead a fulfilling or happy life. And I mean, happiness really is so esoteric. It's more like it came out, and I don't feel compelled to buy stuff anymore. I guess that's sort of the key takeaway.
So now, as a result of this, through what you learned here and paying off all this debt, what kind of feedback have you received, maybe from readers of your blog, from the media? I know recently that you've been interviewed by CNN. What has everyone been saying about this?
It's so interesting. The media is extremely positive about it, extremely positive. And in fact, the Wall Street Journal did a piece on me sort of the next day. It was covered by Fortune, CNN Money. And I reached back out to the guy. I was like, dude, have you read the comments on Wall Street? I would expect from Wall Street Journal, fairly highbrow, for the reader to be fairly astute and understand sort of the secondary and tertiary layers of what I was doing. They didn't. Most of them did not. And he was like, people are so, they don't get it. And my dad emailed me. He's like, Joe, just goes to show you there are a bunch of crazies out there. If you go on the Yahoo Finance piece, there are 5,400 comments, and I would say 95% of them are extremely negative, and they rave about my six-figure salary. My six-figure salary at the time was $108,000. After tax, you're looking at $78,000. Over 7 months, that's $45,000, right? And then I still got to live, so I still need $3,000 a month just to live, so that's $36,000. So you don't have that much from a six-figure salary when it's $108,000. And you can't look at me and say, dude, you have a six-figure salary. Anybody would have done it. The people I graduated with, most of them still have loans. So while the media isn't very positive, the people sort of looking from the outside in who don't have all the details and are very quick to judge are extremely toxic about it. And that's been, the first couple of days I got sort of sucked into these message boards and these comments just because the feedback I was getting on my blog while I was doing this was extremely positive. I sort of felt like everybody thought this was a good idea. And then, but just looking at these randoms who would read these articles and not actually read the blog and understand what I was going through and understand the numbers, they made these very quick snap judgments. And it's just, it's alarming and sort of frightening that our society is so quick to judge based on limited details.
Well, do you think that, some of that might be just, the Harvard haters out there looking to, give you horrible commentary and say all these things because, they have some kind of axe to grind?
I think it's very easy to put down what I did. I think it's very easy to be critical of it based on limited information. But I also think there's a lot of anger in the country right now based on the economy, diminishing job prospects for grads, increasing increasing university costs, increasing student loans, Stafford loans rates, that's double to 6.8. So just a lot of anger, right? And it's sort of the perfect storm, and it makes me a very easy target for people to get upset about and sort of voice their anger. And, oh, well, this dude had it easy. This guy went to Harvard, got a six-figure salary. Anybody could have done it. So I'm an easy target. Okay. But listen, I'm not going to be a poster child and pose as a solution to rising university costs, the rising student loan rates, and the economy. I will gladly pose as a poster child for people who are brainwashed into believing that they need to have the latest and greatest car, clothing, gadget, whatever. Get off the treadmill and just unplug. I'm happy to sort of be the voice for those people that have a job, that have the loans, and just find themselves constantly spending money on stuff they don't need.
Well, with that in mind, then, Joe, what are your plans going forward? Are you going to keep up the blog? Are you going to do some kind of, some kind of gig with CNBC or something? Are you going to go on a speaking tour? What do you think?
Man, I was talking about that with this girl that I'm dating right now today, actually, and it's sort of like, what's the next step? Where do I go from here? And at this point, I'll be honest, it's dog caught car. I don't know what the next step is. Working on a really exciting special project right now that's completely unrelated to the student loans, so that's going to be wrapping up in a couple of weeks, and then I'll be able to have more time to focus on the blog, which has pretty much remained neglected since this special project started. I'm looking at various things. I'm looking at taking a year off from work and traveling, maybe starting a business. Maybe I just keep slogging away and just be frugal and save for retirement. I did the numbers, and I could retire around age 45, 49 if I really stick to it. I don't know if that's what I want to do. I think it's not bad, right? But there's a lot of sacrifice in that too, and I like to experience things, and there's lots of things sort of on my mind, and honestly, I don't have a clear path right now. I'd be lying to you if I rattle off a number of things that I plan to do during the next 6 to 12 months. I don't have those answers. Well, but I will tell you that it feels great to be debt free. So.
Well, absolutely. Now, with that in mind, at Financial Ben, we focus on personal finance and entrepreneurship for Gen Y. So, what are your tips for people out there graduating with all this debt, or maybe some people considering college and maybe saying, well, I don't know if I want to leave 4 years down the road with being burdened by all this debt. What's your advice to them? Maybe 2 or 3 tips.
There are so many tips for so many different people. There are people who went to great schools with high ROI majors that are going to get out on the job market and they're going to be making bank. And those are probably the people I'm most concerned about, because that kind of reflects what I did 3 years ago. They've got a great job, they've got a great salary, and yet they have all these student loans. The question they need to ask themselves is, what's more important, accumulating a bunch of stuff and continue to pay down these student loans at the regular rate, and sort of being stuck on this path? If they're happy being on the path, if they're happy being the engineer that they wanted to be when they started school 4 years ago, or the businessman or businesswoman that they signed up to be when they entered maybe B school at their undergrad 4 years ago, then more power to you. God bless you. Accumulate a lot of stuff, pay on student loans, keep building your career, and hopefully everything works out for you. But if you want to give yourself some wiggle room and some breathing room and you sort of want to take the pressure off yourself a little bit, I would just recognize that stuff's not going to make you happy. I would say that, at least personally speaking, freedom meant a lot more to me than my second car and my motorcycle and all the other stuff I had. Then you take a look in the mirror. Are they happy with the path that they're on? And you know, is that something they want to keep on doing? Or do they want to just cut out the loans early, you know, take some drastic measures early on before they get into this sort of high-cost lifestyle and get adapted to it? Because it's much harder to reverse the lifestyle than it is to actually start it. So,
well, Joe, I got to hand it to you.
Advice that are like me. For the students that graduate, have a ton of student loans and can't find work, I mean, that's a problem. That's a bigger problem to solve. There are no easy answers for that one.
Right.
And then for the students that are going into school and are about to take on a bunch of student debt, I would just think about entrepreneurs who would never invest, you know, $100,000 into a market or a product that they're unfamiliar with. And
Absolutely.
they really need to do their due diligence, right? They need to think about what do they really want to do with their lives. If they're not certain, don't go sink a bunch of money chasing that one major. Either do maybe a double major, major minor, go to like community college, even investigate trade schools, right? Like our society is so plugged into like high school, college, you know, buy a car, buy a house, get married, retire. Like just mix it up a little bit, you know, and don't invest all of your money into one single thing without really being careful and looking at all the alternatives, because there are quite a few alternatives instead of just the paper cutter route.
I got to hand it to you, man. I really think you learned a lot more as a result of going to Harvard after the fact than maybe when you were actually there, because this is some fantastic advice and the kind of thing that I think people that, you know, readers of the Financial Bin or people that are really struggling out there, it's the kind of stuff they need to hear. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Last thing I have for you is where can people get in contact with you and check out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, please swing by NoMoreHarvardDebt.com. I'm afraid it has not been updated in a couple of weeks. Hopefully more to come on that soon. And my email, NoMoreHarvardDebt@gmail.com. I love listening, hearing from readers. I love reading stories and getting feedback. Bandwidth is a little tight right now, just due to the special project and the fact that I'm still putting in 50 hours a week at my regular job. So I apologize if I don't get to your questions, but I definitely read everything that I get, and I love it all. So.
All right, fantastic. We'll make sure to put that up on financialbin.com as well, and we definitely want to keep tabs on you and what you're doing, and you're always free to come on the program and talk more about your experiences, Joe. It's really been a pleasure. I thank you very much.
Hey, thanks a lot, David. It's been great to be on, and I like what you're doing here.
Thanks a lot. You take it easy.
All right, you too.
All right, everybody. That was Joe Mihalic. Now make sure to check him out on NoMoreHarvardDebt.com. And you can also email him at NoMoreHarvardDebt@gmail.com. We'll make sure to put that up on Financial Bin and tweet it around for all you people out there as well. Now, I want to thank you for joining us on this fine Friday. I hope you really enjoy your weekend. And make sure to check out FinancialBin.com for the latest on personal finance and entrepreneurial advice for Generation Y. And pick up your copy of Entrepreneur Intervention. Till next time, I am David Domzalski, host of FB Radio. Thank you for listening.